Welcome to Ben's Week in Review. This is coming to you from the offices of Ben and Ben, and this is a new show to Mountain Bike Radio. It will be your week in review of things around the world of mountain biking. So I'm Ben Welnack, and in the other office of Ben is Ben Hall, Mountain Bike Ben. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fantastic, coming to you from my office from New Hampshire.
Yes. So, okay, listeners, here's the deal. This is going to be a little catch-up because it's a new show, just to give you an idea of what you can expect. But going forward, we will launch right into everything. So what it is a show, like I said, a weekly review show about things around mountain biking. We're not, as Ben said, we're only, what did you say? We're only lobbing things in the air. We're not spiking them.
Yeah, we're lobbing up some news stories that we found interesting, but we're not spiking them.
Yes. So we're not going into detail.
Or smacking them out of the park.
Yes, we're keeping this 30 minutes or less, probably pushing up against 30 minutes, but we're keeping it short, to the point, and it's not going to just be news about, hey, X brand came out with X product, and this bike was reviewed there, right? You all know where you could find all that details. We will cover some of that, because some of it is, we found interesting, maybe something to note.
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can always go to, we'll talk about the story, and we will have a link in the show notes. The show notes are going to be very detailed, but what we talk about, there will be a link wherever you listen. You can click on that and go to the story if you want to read more. Does that sound like a pretty fair explanation of what people can expect, Ben?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
I think that's fantastic.
Okay. So that said, this week, this is what we're doing. Some of these, we are playing a little catch up here to get this first one kicked off the ground. So some of these stories might be a little...
There's been some big news over the past month or almost two in the mountain bike world.
Yeah, so some of this stuff isn't totally timely, but it's going to be as timely as you can. And I know there's so much information out there get thrown so far and around the internet that it becomes very noisy. So I know some of the stuff you probably didn't hear to begin with, but so stick with us. We'll get caught up as we're going each week. And I think, Ben, what we're going to do is we'll record this end of the week and put it out there for Monday, whether it's Sunday night or Monday morning, whatever it is, get your week going. And that's it. So
yeah,
if you have any news, listeners, any tidbits, any news, anything you want to pass along,
keep it to yourself.
Yeah, keep it to Yes, you can email those to askben@mountainbikeradio.com. Okay, that's askben@mountainbikeradio.com. Can't guarantee we're going to use that piece of news, but if we do, thank you, and you will hear your name or whatever you want to be called right there. All right, that's a good description. That was almost 4 minutes worth. I think we should get on with things. So, all right. So this week, Troubles in the Kingdom, bike brand news. Mike Sinyard has gone psychedelic. Black fungus at Chernobyl and missing elk. All right. First, before we get to that,
there's a Mike Sinyard in the Sky with Diamonds song somewhere in there.
Before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by Follow Hollow. You can go to followhollow.com. So each week when this is brought to you by Follow Hollow, I'm going to give a 30-second little story about what I did in my Follow Hollow socks. So they're alpaca socks. Go check it out, followhollow.com. I've been wearing them for months.
The same pair.
August. Brian, the owner of that, contacted me and said, "Hey, you want to test these socks out?" And I said, "Sure, sounds good. I love a good pair of socks." And I think it was September, and what I realized after 2 days is that, wow, it was really weird. I did all this stuff, and I've been wearing these socks for 2 days straight, and they did not smell at all. So I had the idea. I was like, oh, this might be kind of fun. Let's see how long I can go before they start to smell. And I did not take them off other than to shower. Like literally all day, whatever it was, riding, running. I did a whole bunch of stuff. I was out hunting early season and didn't take them off at all. And I can't remember what I was up to, 12 days maybe?
Same pair?
It sounds disgusting. Yes.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely disgusting. They did not stink at all.
We need your significant other to weigh in on this one.
She did. There's a video, and he uses it as promotion.
Oh, really?
Is a sponsored ad where Amy.
So now you have to link the video.
Yeah, she has a 10-year-old pair of socks hanging in her face and sniffing them and telling me if they smell or not, because I knew she wouldn't believe it. So that's my story for the week. It's not like new news with Follow Howl, but that's it. So Follow Howl socks, or go to followhowl.com. So they will be, hopefully we can work something out where they're going to be supporting this show for a while. But yeah, so check it out. It's worth it. He's a cool guy. And yeah, I bought several pairs on my own dime and wear them all the time. All right, so Ben, kick it off. We got Kingdom Trails, some closing at Kingdom Trails that has spawned a whole mess of things.
Well, it's kind of one of those situations where the premier riding spot in the Northeast, so Kingdom Trails up in East Burke, Vermont, suffered some. For years, I'm going to set the stage a little bit. For years, they've been building this whole entire network of trails.
Hey, we got to keep this.
I know. I'll
promise
keep it to 30
listeners.
seconds like you did your Follow Hollow piece.
Yes. It was 45.
So, long story short, there are several. I mean, we're talking about several private landowners in East Burke and Burke, Vermont, that have comprised all of the land together that Kingdom Trails has been able to build over 100 miles of trail on. Well, they've lost a chunk of that. They're down to about 80 miles at this point. And when you think about it, all right, well, that's only 20%. That's not that big of a loss. It's actually the trails that were lost. That's the big deal, because they were some of the best trails. I always told people, whenever you go to Kingdom Trails, ride the Triple Ts, which, if anybody knows what that means, you understand that those were like the premier trails at Kingdom that you could not pass up. Well, those trails have been lost. It's part of the Darling Hill area. And there's some great pieces. I'll actually, Bryce Sherbach did a fantastic piece that we'll link in the show notes, where he interviews Abby Long, the executive director of the Kingdom Trails, that talks about the loss of these lands, the decision made by some of the landowners, what they're doing to sort of address some of the issues that have come to light from the landowners. And of course, that relationship is really instrumental to keeping these these trails open for all of us to go and ride. And there's a really interesting undercurrent of kind of what does this mean to the long-term impact of trails, not only in East Burke, Vermont, where the Kingdom Trails are, but all of Vermont, and then all of New England, and then across our globe, really, of access and private landowners allowing access on their land for us to ride on. And what's the impact? There's a lot of social economic studies that they've done to dive into what is the economic impact, what is the land impact. So it's really worth kind of digging in and reading a lot about it. And the good news is that Kingdom Trails is working hard to get some of these trails back online. It's probably not going to be an immediate thing, but if you are a supporter of Kingdom Trails, if you're a supporter of mountain biking in New England, hell, if you just like riding bikes, go and research a little bit more about it and see what you can do to help the cause.
There you go. I keep saying it. Access is the biggest thing that some of us are not paying attention to. It's only going to increase, and I think this is a little tip of the iceberg to see what's happening. Okay. All right. I have a quick hit. I don't know why I thought it was important, so listeners might hear some of these along the way and be like, what? No, whatever. But I saw in its bicycle-related business, Tramonto saw a almost 5% increase in sales in 2019 compared to 2018. And I linked the story. It's from Bicycle Retailer, but I thought it was kind of noteworthy because it was higher than some of the other things. I think it was the fishing related business was less than that. So somebody's making some money. So it's good.
Yeah, it's the fact that they leveled the pricing strategy across.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's several factors that go into it, but yeah,
that's not too hard to imagine that would be a impact there.
Yeah, no. So there's more information there, but I'll link that. Everything's going to be in the show notes. All right. So in the world of bikes and bike brand updates, I've shared it on Facebook too, but the Canfield, just because Canfield's such a old cult following of things, and they were
this is super cool.
They really kind of pushed some designs that we are seeing now almost. They've kind of always been there, and it's always been kind of a cult following, right? So they've officially returned. Canfield Brothers returned as Canfield Bikes, And Lance is now leading the bike business, and Chris is he's working on their licensing, their suspension, their, what do they call it, CBF platform. So there's that. You can go to canfieldbikes.com for more information on that. But just so you know, that's out there if you haven't seen it. The next one is, and I know this one always brings up Diamondback. They're refocusing on some independent bike dealer sales and launching some new programs. That was announced at Cabda West. I know Diamondback always brings up, they've had a problem, right? Because that it brings up the idea of you just going to Walmart and buying some kind of Diamondback bike, right?
Right.
And
but for those of us who have been in the industry for years, I mean, I was building bikes at a bike shop in the early '90s, and we were a proud Diamondback shop. They were a legit full-fledged mountain bike company back then.
Yep. So this company, Regent, which is an investment group in California, acquired Diamondback, iZip, Redline from the previous company, which was Excel last year, and they formed Alta Cycling Group, which to sell those brands. So Alta took over as
So when does the Vail Cycling Group start? Sorry.
Yeah, I know. So Alta took over as the North American distributor of several brands still owned by Excel as well. So Raleigh, High Bike, which is probably growing number-wise, it probably has some percentage gain of who knows what, and Ghost. And then Regent also owns Mavic. So the whole story, long story short, Diamondback is kind of launched a program to refocus on independent bike dealers. And there's some interesting, it seems like one of the owners maybe, or one of the higher ups was really responding to a lot of comments on that and trying to be proactive as far as, looks like they're actually trying to do something there. So who knows, might be something to keep your eye on. I have that link in the show notes if you want to read more. The other one I want to make note of here is Ibis has released the carbon version of it. It seems weird because you almost think like, oh, well, that wasn't out yet.
Well, no, it's the aluminum, not the carbon.
I know, but just in your mind, it's just an assumption that it's like, oh, why wasn't that out yet? Right, the carbon. Right. So they released the carbon Ritmo. It's called the Ritmo 2. They released the Ritmo AF, which stands for aluminum frame. Came out last year.
Not Airlight or Assault. What? Not
AF, Ritmo AF was a hint of things to come, and so they have released the carbon Ritmo. I will say, I know they're expensive and things, but the frame starts at $3,000 and complete bikes begin at $4,400 and go up to $9,300, which sounds like a lot of money, but compared to e-bikes, man, you're getting a deal. So
they also they adjusted their geometry a little bit too. So
so there's details that go into that. Yep.
Yeah, pay attention to the geos because they've kind of modernized what their geometry has been. So kind of interesting to see what the reviews will look like for those bad boys.
But it's really popular bike, and now carbon is around. So check that out. Do you, Ben? You want to take the next one, or do I get to talk?
No, go for it. I'll just chime in because this one makes me laugh.
Well, it's laughing. It's a good thing, I guess, too, right? So the news was when I said Mike Sinyard is gone psychedelic, is he has recently announced his Project New Day, which is you can go to projectnewday.foundation, but the whole mission of this organization is to take action to nurture and grow the responsible and legal use of psychedelic medicines to evoke wholeness, freedom, and fulfillment. And the website also goes on to say Project New Day was actually founded in 2019, but the official announcement was just made recently. On January 28th, the City Council of Santa Cruz, California, voted unanimously to decriminalize natural psychedelics, making arrests for use or possession of natural psychoactives like psilocybin mushrooms the lowest priority for law enforcement. So that's where this comes in, and he announced this foundation kind of at the same time, and it works to psychoactive therapies that help people, I think, with depression and different issues through the use of psychedelic information. So like I said, you can get more information at projectnewday.foundation, or I linked there's a Pink Bike article as well, as I have that link is in there. Ben.
Far out, man.
Yeah.
Far out.
It's coming, right? It's like this...
Yeah, I mean, it's what I do for a living. That's why I find it so funny. I mean,
yeah, you know, the thing is, though, is there's got to be alternatives to, like, other pharmaceuticals out there.
That's just it.
It's just not doing it.
Yep.
So, you know, so Mike Sinyard, the head of Specialized, there you go. He's Project New Day, projectnewday.foundation.
Man, there's so many jokes here. There's so many jokes.
Yeah, but he's trying to do good. So people have accused him,
which is fantastic.
Yeah, people have accused him in the past of being a dickhead for suing different small companies and maintaining their brand and their company. But I mean, here's the case that something like that's doing good, and I don't think that gets enough. I mean, it's a story in Pink Bike, but beyond that, I can guarantee an e-bike story got shared 100 times more than this did. So
yeah.
All right.
I'm curious what drugs he's actually trying to position here.
I think it mentions some on the website, but
yeah,
not sure. I'm not big into psychedelics. I don't know anything about it other than I've heard of psilocybin and some other ones, but I have no idea.
Well, right. Good luck, Mike. Good luck. Make California another place that we want to visit.
All right. So next one.
Peyote. Oh my God. Sorry.
Is that one of them?
That's one of them. Yeah. Right. Magic mushrooms and peyote are a couple of the plants that he's trying to. I mean, marijuana is already legal in California, so. But
it's old news.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right. Next one. The Bureau of Land Management is proposing oil and gas leasing out on the Sand Flats area around Moab. And yeah.
Yeah.
It's caused a little bit of an uproar. We're kind of late on this because the comment period went through, as of recording this on Friday, the 21st, it went through yesterday. So just know, if you haven't seen the story already, that this is out there. This is out there. And this isn't the last it's going to happen. This is not the last it's ever going to happen, regardless of who's in office or what the situation is. It will go back and forth, but yeah. So there's proposals to do that. I don't know. I think it's St. Louis Tribune, perhaps, that I had the story from in there, but it's all over. I don't really have any other details at this point, but I will say, keep in mind that just because it's open to leasing does not mean that companies are going to flood in there to get drilling, because It might not. There might be sections that are worth it. There might not be sections that are worth it. I don't know the details that go into the politics behind this, or why one thing gets why they're saying that let's open it up or not. I have no idea what other deals are in the works. There could be. In these kind of situations, there could be also deals for, fine, you open that up, but we get this. I have no idea how that all works.
Yeah, a little give and take. It usually happens that way.
So, yeah, there's always some scratching backs. And so I'm kind of anxious to see how it plays out. I know the comment section, or, the comments, I'm sure got a lot of public comments in that. But, yeah.
Something to pay attention to, that's for sure.
Yeah, and this isn't the last it's going to happen, and it could happen in your area. So be aware of that. I will say, as somebody, I spent a lot of time out in the Badlands in North Dakota, among all the oil wells and newly developed pads and fracking and all that stuff. And it is a problem. Not so much the existing drilling and the pump jacks and that kind of thing, but in the potential for spills, truck spills, pipeline spills. What happens is transport trucks, they'll go off the road and get a crack, and all of a sudden there's like 2,000 gallons of this fluid here and this oil there, or whatever it is. It adds up pretty quickly with all the traffic. So the problem is that I think we need to get over is the seeing it. So seeing something happening, like a tower or something, that's not the ongoing concern. I think is the ongoing concern is all that maintenance and the cracks and the spilling. It's a nightmare. But
it's when something goes wrong with it.
Yeah, it's a mess. So anyway, all right. So I want to, in doing the show, I want to kind of interject other things that are going on in the outdoors that we might not see in our day-to-day pink bike and bike rumor and just being really, really in it. And there's a lot of things that go wrong in the outdoors that might be related or kind of related or not related at all. But I found this story about, and I call it the crazy natural thing of the week, but I found a story about a fungi that is thriving in Chernobyl. It's this black fungi, which they found in 1991, 5 years after the nuclear meltdown. They found it growing on the walls of the abandoned reactor, which had been flooded with these gamma rays. I don't know anything about gamma rays, and I never will. But they actually discovered that this fungi grows towards the radiation.
It's just nuts.
Yeah. So who knows what we can use from that? But I'd never heard of this. And there was a story on MSN.com about how it works, and that this melanin that's in it is a pigment which turns your skin dark, allows the fungi to absorb these gamma rays and turn into chemical energy. And that is called not photosynthesis, but radiosynthesis.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of
cool. It's the direct opposite of chlorophyll. Like, if you think about it, it's the direct opposite. Instead of a plant absorbing light, this is absorbing energy from
it's crazy, isn't it?
Radio waves. So
I just get to thinking, what else is out there that's like this that we don't really know is like that? There's stuff in front of us that is, we don't, yeah.
How many comic book characters are going to come out of this?
Yeah. Black mold. Yeah. So that was an interesting story, and I thought I'd pass that along.
Hey, wherever there's destruction, there's life. That's the other piece of this. Right?
Here's the lesson you learn in Jurassic Park.
There you go.
Life finds a way.
I think that was an interesting comparison.
Life finds a way. Well, that's Dr. Malcolm, what's his name?
The
doctor, or whatever, the smart
doctor.
guy. Yeah, that's his famous saying, is life
Played
finds
by
a way.
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum. Life finds a way, and it certainly does. So
it certainly does.
A crazy story. The last one, before we wrap this up, is I found a story about the Aspen, Vale Aspen area. And no, it doesn't have to do with cocaine in the 80s. Yeah, it was huge. Like 80s and 90s, it was like this huge, like party.
It was
cocaine.
The cocaine mecca.
Yeah, apparently, that's what I've heard. Never been part of it, but so now I'm going to get emails about how you're such a horrible. That's why I like doing this show. Like, I could do that. It doesn't matter. Like,
that's funny.
But it's a story about elk in that area, and there's a couple studies that have shown that there's been this isn't even a study, they just counted 50% reduction in the elk herd population in the Roaring Fork and Eagle Valleys since 2000. So in the last 20 years, that elk herd is reduced by 50%. The story goes on to talk about how there is a lot of it is housing development, housing and business, and obviously that's probably a huge part of it. It always is. That you take a wintering ground for a herd of elk, and now you put houses and fragment that area, and it's going to have obvious issues, right? It's going to cause them to leave, and they're not going to find the food they need in the winter, and they're going to die quicker. It's just, that's the way it is. But my point is with that is that the housing developments, although we can maybe find different ways of doing it, that's going to be a constant. That's always going to take precedent over some other things. It's just, there's nothing we can do about it. The thing that I want to point out about this study is two things: is obviously the elk herd being decimated in their area, going elsewhere, whatever happening, they don't fully understand totally. That's why they're studying it. But there was a quote in that article and I think is worthy to take note of is, here's the quote is, "But what has changed is the number of people reacting." Let me start that over. "But what has changed is the number of people recreating on public lands, both winter and summer," he said. "Mountain bikers clamor for more trails, but backpackers hit popular routes in droves and forced the U.S. Forest Service to set limits at Conundrum Hot Springs and consider limits on the popular Four Pass Loop southwest of Aspen. Larger and more powerful snowmobiles and dirt bikes reach farther into the backcountry on a tank of gas. The surge in popularity on backcountry skiing and snowboarding lures people into places that were formerly left to wildlife. So the thing I want to make note of that is the first line in that was pointing to mountain bikers clamoring for more trails. Now, understand that depending on who the viewpoint is and who's writing it, yeah, they're going to say mountain bikers clamor for more trails. Well, backpackers, we're just hiking along, but there was too many of us, so, whatever. You could frame it any way you want. But my point is that as we have more trails, we have more mountain bikers. We can add e-bikers to that. Whatever it is, you add to our group of people, and we are making trails at an unprecedented pace in the mountain bike world.
And bigger and wider than we ever have before.
Bigger and wider. We are going to be responsible and mentioned in that list of things. So in that discussion about the reduction in elk herds, not only is it housing, but the first thing mentioned is mountain bikers. We need to be aware of that. This is a thing, and this will be an ongoing theme, I think, in the show, is there'll be stories that point to this kind of thing. So we need to be aware from a mountain biker's perspective that we are being mentioned in this kind of format.
And there's some
we do have
here too.
And we do have impact on elk and other wildlife.
And there's crossover here too, because what we're seeing in the gas and oil stuff in Moab, what's happening in Kingdom Trails, there's a whole bunch of crossover here that it's just like we need places for us to be able to exercise this passion of ours, but at what cost? And not only at what cost to us, what cost to our neighbors, what cost to our environment. And it's just one of those things that at some point this will need to become a topic of further and deeper understanding, and what that means as far as the impact to our sport overall.
Yep. So that you will hear some of those stories. That won't be all of it, but I just want to let you know that's out there. Link is in the notes. All right. We have a couple minutes to close this out. Just a reminder that if you do have a piece of news, maybe from your local area, whether it's a trail or something, or somebody involved with your trail or whatever you think is cool, send it our way. Ask Ben at mountainbikeradio.com.
Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to think it's cool, but
I like
fine.
Weird outdoor news. I think that black fungus thing that is really cool.
I can't wait to see the comic book, Black Fungus.
Radiosynthesis is something that I didn't know existed. All right.
Marvel's next superhero, Dark Matter.
Yes. All right. Wrap this thing up.
So before we go, I just want to take a second to say goodbye to Dirt Rag. What a great, great run of, in my opinion, one of the best mountain bike zines to ever exist. Definitely kept me inspired and engaged as a young lad interested in mountain biking all the way through to this past summer. And Ben, you and I got a chance to go to Dirt Fest in PA, and I went to Dirt Fest West Virginia with my boys, and it was such a cool experience. And I think, as I look back on the legacy of Dirt Rag, they always brought the fun factor and the let's not take ourselves too seriously factor back into the mountain bike scene that I always appreciated and sort of relished in. And I just want to send a thanks to Maurice and the whole entire crew at Dirt Rag for keeping it going for as long as you did and providing us with such great content and entertainment while you were able to.
All right. We kept it under 30 minutes. So check out Thanks to Follow Howell. Check them out. And check us out next week. Share with your friends. Do whatever you got to do. Let us know what you think. Hit a good rating on the Mountain Bike Radio app or podcast, wherever you listen to it. And I think that's it, right, Ben?
Yeah, it is. Comment on iTunes.
Yes.
Like on iTunes.
Yes.
Do all those fun things.
Cool. That's it.
We did it for the likes.
Bye.